Zhang Yin interrupted him, Elder, it's not that I'm unwilling to assist you, but I have a prior engagement with a friend to go to the Ci demonic abyss for cultivation. If I stay here for too long, I fear I will miss my appointment. Gue Zongxiang replied, I see. The Ci demonic abyss, I've heard of it, but I've never been there myself. I only know that it is extremely dangerous. If one is not careful, they may end up buried there. With his right hand, Gue Zongxiang waved his talisman. If you wish to go cultivate, I will gift you something to aid you. A beam of light from the talisman flew into Zhang Yan's hand. As he looked at the turtle shell that appeared in his hand, he listened to Gue Zongxiang explain its purpose. This pure harmony shield was crafted from the shattered shell fragments on my body after I underwent tribulation, allowing one to avoid calamities as well as divine powers. Today, I give it to you. Gue Zongxiang kindly added a bonus for Zhang Yan, saying, Moreover, I know that in a few months, your Brightblade sect will be dispatching disciples to completely annihilate Sanbai. This internal news just came out, and it left Zhang Yan astonished. He said, Our Brightblade sect signed a peace treaty with the Water Kingdom of the Diying region a long time ago. At that time, the Golden Seal and the official document were brought back by me. I didn't expect that they would want to stir up conflict again so soon. It must be because of the incident where Chu Zhan killed a disciple of the Brightblade sect, right? Gue Zongxiang shook his head. The demonic tribulation of the Eastern Flower Continent is approaching, and in order to prepare for the tribulation, the Brightblade sect will surely think of every possible way to increase their strength within the sect. The matter of Chu Zhang is merely an excuse for the Brightblade sect to attack Sanbai. He continued to analyze, when they besiege Sanbai, the merit hall of the Brightblade sect will definitely offer a reward for my poison. At that time, my friend, you can come back here to kill me, which will conveniently grant you a great achievement. 5 days later at Spirit Crest Island. Zhang Yan read the letter in his hand and said to La Ping, Xie Zong Yuan sent a letter, inviting me to meet 10 days later at the Red Swallow platform on River Rush Island, to the west of Dragon Abyss Great Estate, to enter the demonic abyss together. He also mentioned that he has obtained the Cloud Sand Fire system, and he will personally hand it over to me then. Zhang Yan felt that a satisfying outcome was already within reach, so this year Yuan Cloud Sand would be fully gathered. He explained to La Ping, La fellow cultivator, it's not that I don't want to take you along, but I've heard that the female immortal Pang True Immortal in the renowned archery pavilion has profound cultivation. Anyone who goes to the island would be seen through, so this time I can only go alone. La Ping waved her hand dismissively, appearing unconcerned, yes. Even the old tortoise and Sanbai beast King Gue Zongxiang has to obediently stretch its neck out for you to kill. How could I dare to disobey? She even pretended to complain, causing Zhang Yan to shake his head. I fear that from now on, maidservant will have to correct herself and call you master. Though they joked, she still reminded him with concern, inside the demonic abyss, there are several kinds of demon heads, and for a cultivator of pure spirit energy like husband, the sound demons are the easiest to encounter. This time I cannot accompany you as a guard, so before you set off, you need to bring some calming pills from Alchemist Peak, just in case you need them. Zhang Yan agreed, I understand. While I am away from the island, I will have to trouble my friend to look after the place. On the distant River Rush Island, where the cool blue waters flow, 2 individuals are seated on a small island. Lu Tao is looking in one direction and softly speaks, it's brother Zhang coming. Beside him, Zhao Jin is meditating not far away. Zhang Yan is standing at the bow of the boat, steering it swiftly towards them. He jumps down and lands safely. Lu Tao calls out, Brother Zhang. He beams with a bright smile and gestures towards the man behind him. Come, let me introduce you to Brother Zhang. This is Zhao Jin, senior disciple, hailing from the Zhao clan. This time, we still need to rely on his agarwood boat to go down to Ci. Zhang Yan clasps his hands together and nods in greeting. Lu Tao then gestures towards him and continues, Senior disciple, this is Zhang Yan, the brother Zhang I mentioned to you. He is the direct disciple of our Bright Blade sect. Zhao Jin also clasps his hands and speaks, greetings. Then he showed a sullen expression, his arms crossed, clearly in a bad mood. Right now, we are only missing one person, the Xie senior disciple. The gentle and radiant Xie clan truly has a grand demeanor, making us wait for him alone. Lu Tao quickly salvaged the situation. Zhao senior disciple, don't rush, there's still a day left until the appointment, let's just wait a bit longer. Zhang Yan observed their conversation, secretly pondering. Although the Zhao clan is considered a large lineage among the 12 clans, it is placed at the bottom of the ranking. This person can befriend someone of humble origins like Lu Tao, so he must not be a main lineage disciple but rather a branch member of the clan. He seems to know his place quite well, which is interesting. Lu Tao suddenly pointed to the sky and exclaimed, "The CS senior disciple has arrived." He also looked up, but Zhao Zhen didn't bother to glance at all. Above, a wooden boat appeared, intricately carved down to the smallest detail, large and imposing, clearly a luxurious item of no ordinary quality. Xia Zongyuan quickly jumped down below, not forgetting to apologize, "I'm sorry to have kept everyone waiting. My junior disciple arrived a bit late, please don't blame me." Lu Tao and Zhang Yan stepped forward to greet him warmly. Lu Tao smiled cheerfully and replied, "Not at all, Xia's senior disciple arrived just in time, it's only Zhao Zhen who has a sulky face and appears displeased, making it hard for him to speak without being curt." Is he going to leave as well? However, Xia Zongyuan paid little attention to his state and continued to speak amiably, "This must be Zhao's senior disciple, right? Lu's senior disciple has mentioned you to me several times. I've heard that the elders in your clan have also been to the demonic abyss, I hope you will spare no effort this time." Zhao Zhen grimaced but still forced a polite response, "Not at all, not at all." Zhang Yan, witnessing this, quickly glanced at him, feeling a myriad of emotions. Being a descendant of a clan himself, he found Xie Zongyuan to be generous and straightforward, never trying to appear aloof, indifferent to others' backgrounds, and quite considerate and dedicated to his friends, someone truly worth befriending. The paragraph glanced at the man whose face was grim, silently forming an assessment. In comparison, the word stabilize fell short in many ways. Openly displaying love and hate, yet considering himself noble. This time, if any oversight occurred, it would surely stem from this person. Then, all four of them stepped onto the large boat that Xie Zongyuan had used for their journey, setting off together on a long trip. They soared through the air for quite a while and soon arrived at the renowned archery palace. It was a towering spire piercing the sky, with brilliant golden streams of spiritual energy radiating in all directions from the tower. Upon seeing it, Xie Zongyuan was extremely excited and exclaimed, "The spiritual energy is surging, the cultivation of Peng True Immortal is truly profound. When operating the mysterious arts, one can feel the connection between heaven and man, moving alongside the clouds and mist. It seems that before long, our Brightblade sect will have to be renamed among the top 10 masters." Zhao Zhen beside him, however, seemed to have no idea what he was talking about, a sarcastic smile creeping onto his lips, and his words came out even more provocatively, "Is it really that easy? Looks like a step, but it's as far apart as heaven and earth. My senior ancestor once said that if within 100 years, Peng True Immortal can overcome this hurdle, then it would be easier to say, if not, then this life might as well be hopeless." Seeing his arrogant demeanor and contemptuous gaze towards Xie Zongyuan, Zhang Yan couldn't help but feel frustrated. They were already approaching the renowned Archer's Hall, saying too much would only be a mistake. If Peng True Immortal heard them, it might lead to trouble. Then he observed Zhao Zhen puffing out his chest in arrogance, his lofty demeanor made him even more displeased. Throughout the journey, whenever others brought up topics of conversation, this Zhao Zhen would surely step forward to contradict them. The more they exchanged barbs, the more he seemed to thrive, making him quite detestable. If it weren't for having to rely on this guy to lead the way, he would have likely been thrown off long ago. As they disembarked from the boat and set foot before the main door of the renowned Archer's Hall, suddenly a figure flashed by, but could not escape Zhang Yan's keen perception. He immediately turned around and called out, startling the other person. "Feng's senior disciple, long time no see." It turned out to be Feng Ming. He appeared flustered, his gaze darting around, stuttering a greeting. "Oh, it's Zhang junior disciple." He saw this and gently added, "I didn't expect senior disciple Feng to also be here. After the small mountain of mausoleum, I get to see senior disciple again. It seems that our senior disciple is quite faded." Feng Ming increasingly felt awkward, his words coming out in fits and starts. Yes, indeed. Ignoring his forced smile, Zhang Yan's attention was more drawn to the figure hiding behind the pillar. Suddenly, he burst into a joyful laugh, placing his hands on the other's shoulders with enthusiasm. This time entering the demonic abyss is extremely dangerous. Senior disciple Feng is an elite in our sect, but still, we must be cautious. If he were to be caught off guard, he might be startled out of his wits. With senior disciple Feng here, we can at least feel a bit more at ease. After finishing his words, Zhang Yan waved his hand cheerfully in farewell. Goodbye. Senior disciple Feng and I truly feel as if we've known each other for ages. It's just a pity that today we have other teammates, so we cannot chat for long. Next time, I will definitely light a candle and have a heart-to-heart with senior disciple. Feng Ming nodded in agreement, certainly. But after he had walked far away, Feng Ming found it puzzling, when had he and that person become so familiar? Suddenly, a figure approached from behind, softly speaking. Feng Junior Disciple, you and Zhang Junior Disciple seem quite close, don't you? Upon hearing this, he was startled and quickly turned around to explain, No. We just happened to meet on the road. Senior Disciple, please don't misunderstand. The one who arrived was Feng Jin, a sly grin curling at the corners of his mouth. Is that so? Feng Jin placed a hand on Feng Ming's shoulder, his voice dripping with menace and eeriness. Feng Junior Disciple need not worry, the Zhang Yan group won't last much longer. Why should we bother with a bunch of soon-to-be dead people? Hearing this, he trembled and asked, what does Senior Disciple mean by that? Feng Jin glanced towards the four individuals gradually making their way deeper inside, unable to hold back his words. Do you really think the demonic abyss is easy to traverse? Xie Zong Yuan and his companions only knew a few fragmented pieces of information, not to mention the demonic spirits and the numerous true demons wreaking havoc within. If we were to encounter them, exterminating a group of pure spirit energy cultivators would be as effortless as flipping a hand. He revealed a cunning smile, showcasing his own demonic aura. Years ago, when Zhang's senior disciple was cultivating within the demonic abyss, there were still places with established restrictions, allowing us to cultivate there with peace of mind. However, Xie Zong Yuan and his group are completely unaware of this. Feng Jin's gaze grew increasingly scheming, every word he uttered carried no benevolent intent. This time during the cultivation, I have also brought along the 5 divine firearms. Even if Zhang Yan and Xie Zong Yuan truly have good luck and are not targeted by the demon lord, I should still conveniently resolve the grievances between both sides a little. Feng Ming behind him, upon hearing this, broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly reminded, this matter might not be appropriate. Among the companions, there is also Han Qi, a descendant of the Han clan, and I fear that many variables will arise. If this were to leak out. Feng Jin waved his hand dismissively, showing no concern for the warning. You need not worry about that fellow, nor should you fear his Han clan title. In my view, there is an 80 to 90% chance that this guy will die here. When the time comes, if he obstructs me, with murderous intent radiating from Feng Jin, then we shall kill him together. In his mind, countless profound strategies had opened up, giving him an air of boundless confidence. Feng Junior Disciple, the likes of Zhang Yan and Xie Zong Yuan are but dried bones in a grave. In this lifetime of the Bright Blade sect, sooner or later, it will be our world. As long as you obediently follow me, this time you will smoothly advance into the mysterious Radiance realm and demonstrate your abilities in the sand by battle, gaining even more merits. In the future, if I establish a cave dwelling, there will certainly be a seat for you among my disciples. At this moment, a woman spoke up to inform the 4 of them, senior brothers, the guest quarters are full, and all the residents within the archery hall are women, so it's not convenient to receive guests from outside. You are all cultivators who live on the wind and drink the essence of the earth, surely, you wouldn't mind sleeping outside for a night, would you? Zhao Jin felt a surge of frustration, his face contorted with displeasure. Is this even reasonable? Just a moment ago, I clearly saw another group of people enter. Zhang Yan, standing behind him, silently cursed him for his loose tongue. Who told you to offend others with your big mouth? Suddenly, someone called out from behind Brother Zhang, the one arriving is Qin Nan. She was smiling brightly, her cheeks flushed. He then asked Junior Sister Tsong, "Are you cultivating here?" She softly spoke to the person beside her, "Several senior brothers, these are guests from afar. If the guest house is full, then prepare a side hall for them to rest." The person replied respectfully, "Yes, senior master." Zhang Yan was extremely surprised and asked back, "Senior master, so it turns out that Junior Sister is a top disciple under Peng True Immortal?" He thought to himself, since their separation less than half a month ago, he never expected that she had already reached the peak of pure spirit energy at the first level, and judging by the present situation, she would soon break through to the second level. Such a rapid advancement in cultivation was truly hard to imagine. Qin Nan shyly smiled and explained, "Originally, I was a registered disciple under Qin's senior disciple, but later Grand Master took me as a direct disciple." Xia Zongyuan, who was behind them, noticed that the two were happily chatting and suggested, "If junior disciple has accidentally met an old friend, there must be a lot to talk about. We shall take our leave first." Lu Tao covered Zhao Zhen's mouth with his hand to prevent him from speaking wildly again. He smiled and said, "This is also my first time coming to this renowned archery place. I wonder what beautiful scenery there is, so it's just right for Brother Zhao to guide us around for a bit." Then the three of them left, leaving a comfortable space for Qin Nan and Zhang Yan. She shyly asked, "Senior disciple, are you also going to cultivate in the demonic abyss?" He cheerfully replied, "That's right, Junior Sister, have you been there before?" She eagerly recounted, "Not long ago, I used to cultivate here every day." Then, she hurriedly reached into a small bag as if searching for something. "All right, Senior disciple, please wait for me a moment." Finally, she pulled out a large map and handed it to Zhang Yan. Qin Nan explained about the item, "This is a map of the demonic abyss that I saw in the master's study. I secretly copied it, I'm not sure how useful it will be. If senior disciple doesn't mind, please take it." He gently patted Qin Nan's head, continuously expressing his gratitude, "Thank you, Junior Sister." She enjoyed it very much, her eyes crinkling with a smile, "Senior disciple is being too polite. I hope we can practice the sword of perfection together again in the future." At night, in a small house on a spacious plot of land, with lush trees in the back, Xie Zongyuan placed a box containing a deep red pill on the table, still emanating spiritual energy. "Brother Zhang, Zongyuan has not failed the mission, the cloud sand fire system is here." Zhang Yan also responded very politely, "Thank you for your hard work, Senior Disciple Xie." He then took out a blue vial and gently set it down, "This is a divine pill personally refined by my master, and I ask Senior Disciple Xie to pass it on to the senior brothers." He was delighted to see it. With these vials of elixirs, we need not fear the disturbances of the evil spirits anymore. Zhang Yan, with a serious expression, spoke up, "Evil spirits are easy to manipulate, while petty individuals are hard to guard against. Fang Zhen and his group may have learned that we are also heading to the demonic abyss, they might sneakily plot against us from behind. It seems this trip will not be smooth sailing." Xie Zongyuan, upon hearing this, also became very serious, his tone firm and prepared. "I, Xie Zongyuan, am not someone who is soft-hearted or lenient. Senior disciple, you can rest easy." On the day the CI opened, Zhang Yan was leisurely making his way up the stairs to the front door of the pavilion of Flying Crane. The door creaked open, revealing many groups of cultivators from various places gathered inside. In the center, there was a clear pond surrounded by large, sturdy stones. He slowly stepped in. On one side stood Feng Ming and Fang Zhen, glaring at his figure. Fang Zhen's gaze was filled with arrogance and disdain, casting a look at Zhang Yan as if he were an eternal enemy. However, his attention soon shifted to a refined young man with white hair in the distance. The person on the other side appeared to be a member of the Han clan. The tall young man with ivory white hair was none other than Han Qi. Zhang Yan quietly speculated that the individuals surrounding this young cultivator seemed to be his attendants, yet their expressions revealed no trace of respect. Suddenly, a mournful voice drew Zhang Yan's gaze back. He puzzled and asked Xia, senior disciple, "What's going on?" He turned to the woman who was sobbing uncontrollably, tears streaming down like rain in the distance, and spoke to explain that is Madame Chen, originally a renowned archer disciple. Her husband, after achieving victory, entered the CI but did not return. Therefore, this time she is pleading with everyone to allow her to accompany them into the demonic abyss. Although she is a cultivator, she holds a deep and sincere love for her husband. Suddenly, the water in that area erupted violently, startling everyone. After the water calmed down, a deep whirlpool appeared in the middle of the lake. Fang Jin and Feng Ming, along with their fellow cultivators, did not hesitate to jump down below. Now, he earnestly announced, "It's time, the CI is open." Han Chi immediately took out a sacred artifact. Streams of brilliant golden light burst forth, illuminating the entire group. Without delay, they quickly plunged into the center of the whirlpool. Lu Tao clasped his hands and spoke, "Zhao senior disciple, we can depart now." Zhao Zhen immediately took out a jade token, from which brilliant spiritual energy radiated. A large and sturdy ship gradually materialized within the dazzling golden spiritual energy. They prepared to board the ship one by one to enter the demonic abyss. However, only Zhang Yan was still gazing back. He looked towards the weeping woman and then turned to speak to Xie Zong Yuan, Xie's senior disciple. "Madame Chen is a renowned archer disciple and is surely familiar with the way into the demonic abyss. This will be beneficial for us. You should take her along." Upon hearing this, Xie Zong Yuan replied, "I had initially considered that as well, but the sandalwood ship can only carry 5 people at most, there is no room for her." Thus, Zhang Yan proposed a reasonable solution. "This is simple. We have the illusory void Dao robe that the Jinwang Water Kingdom gifted us. It can avoid water, fire, and 5 metals. Senior disciple can take her ahead, and then I will catch up with you." Zhang Yan inadvertently directed his gaze towards Zhao Zhen, his words carrying profound implications. His meaning was clear: having an additional reliable guide is always better than relying solely on one person. Xie Zong Yuan nodded in agreement, saying, "It's just that this might put Zhang at a disadvantage." Without any hesitation, Zhang Yan jumped into the water below. He quickly discovered a place where powerful whirlpools were gathering. He silently speculated, perhaps that is the demonic abyss. Without a moment's hesitation, Zhang Yan swam straight into it. The surrounding water began to churn, creating violent waves. Soon after, he was swept into a strange space, resembling an underground cave. Before him was a gigantic water vortex, continuously sucking water from all sides, forming a fierce and intense waterspout. He stretched his arms wide, feeling each stream of orange-gold spiritual energy gradually entering his body. The spiritual energy here seemed to be competing to penetrate every pore, and in the blink of an eye, it had replenished the amount he had just expended. "This is just the entrance," Zhang Yan thought to himself. If the spiritual energy inside the demonic abyss is as intense as this, with a density nearly double that of Spirit Crest Island, if I dive deeper, after a month, breaking through to the mysterious radiance realm will no longer be a challenge. After absorbing the energy, Zhang Yan continued to move. After flying for a while, 2 towering spires appeared before him, surrounded by floating white clouds. In the distance, his 4 teammates were waiting. Xie Zong Yuan cheerfully stepped forward, his voice brimming with excitement, "Brother Zhang, you finally made it." The moment Zhang Yan looked, he recognized that this was an illusion. Without hesitation, he unleashed a bright green spiritual energy orb. He murmured, "This just arrived? What a shame, too good to be true." Then he waved his hand, directing the swirling green energy to fly forward. It spiraled in mid-air, as if trying to break through the illusion before him. Immediately, the green spiritual energy shattered the illusory space, bringing Zhang Yan back to reality. As everything returned to normal, he realized he was standing in a cave. Above him were sharp stone spikes, and all around, streams of spiritual energy continued to emanate from every direction. Looking at the rushing water below, Zhang Yan thought to himself, "What I just experienced must have been created by the illusions of the demonic path, there's no doubt about it." It is said that these demon heads can sense the desires within a person's heart. So, they used illusions to enchant their prey, just as it is. He recalled the situation he had just faced, and a smile crept onto his lips. "Just now, the only thought that arose in my heart was to seek out my companions, along with a stubborn attachment to pursuing the great Tao." Immediately, the demon head sensed this and created an appropriate illusion. But clearly, they cannot delve deep into my inner self, they can only infect a faint layer on the surface. Zhang Yan chuckled softly to himself but did not dwell on it further. For someone with a steadfast heart, these illusions were merely a minor challenge. He prepared to continue onward, determined not to let anything obstruct the path ahead. How could the top scholar Zuan smile at others like Zhaozhen? This is truly a joke. It seems that as long as one remains vigilant in their heart and is prepared early, it is not difficult to cope. The following places increasingly feature more perilous high cliffs. Zhang Yan walked while glancing around, pondering. Xie Zong Yuan values promises and has said to gather at this spot, yet he is not here. Could it be that something unexpected has happened? Or has Fang Zhen and his group taken action? He hurriedly unfolded the map to examine the geography. Junior sister, mark a few caves where we can hide and cultivate, he instructed. Or let's check out these places first. Even if we don't find Xie Zong Yuan's group, we can temporarily reside there and not delay our cultivation. With this thought, he continued on his way. But along the journey, he unexpectedly saw something that left him astonished. On top of a rock, something was lying there in a relaxed manner. As I approached, I realized it was a person lying motionless. His mouth was filled with blood, and his eyes were tightly shut. Zhang Yan felt suspicious. Isn't this one of the members of the Han clan? Before the feeling of astonishment could dissipate, two figures suddenly appeared. One of them spoke up, Junior sister, how do you see my newly forged blood essence? Zhang Yan immediately channeled his energy, enveloping himself in a shield of spiritual energy. He quietly retreated behind a large rock to assess the situation. The two individuals drew closer. One was a man, and the other was a woman. The man held a peculiar gourd, from which a stream of spiritual energy transformed into a deep red humanoid form, looking extremely terrifying. The woman beside him frowned, questioning, Senior disciple, is this what you call blood essence? While the dispersing aura might be overlooked, it lacks any spiritual consciousness. At best, it could move 2 steps, whether it can even injure someone remains uncertain. The man was not angry, he simply smiled and replied, of course, it can't be compared to the spirit of my junior sister. But I haven't been refining it for long, given some more time, I might not be weaker than you. Upon hearing this, the woman was extremely excited and exclaimed, Master is truly impressive. Just by facing his spirit, he was able to subdue 3 disciples of the 3 layers of clear energy from the Bright Blade sect. As soon as the man heard this, his expression immediately changed to one of displeasure. He grumbled, the cultivators of the Bright Blade sect are indeed formidable, especially the one wielding the spirit artifact that breathes fire. Not only did he incinerate a malevolent spirit that I painstakingly refined, but he also injured Master's spirit. I'm afraid it will take at least another year and a half of refinement before I can use it again. Zhang Yan remained seated behind the rock, listening attentively. Could these 2 be disciples of the Blood Soul sect, one of the 6 great demon sects? He thought to himself. The group led by Xie Zong Yuan must have encountered these individuals, forcing them to leave reluctantly. But the problem is, this place is located beneath the sea eye of the Bright Blade sect, how could they have gotten in? Is there another way into this place? The woman outside was still unaware, continuing to chatter on, revealing her entire plan. She said, for now, let a few Bright Blade sect disciples jump around. After half a month, once the master has subdued the true demon and comes over, they won't be able to escape their fate. Upon hearing this, the man's expression grew even more excited. He said, I initially intended to follow the path of the minor demonic abyss to seek out the major demonic abyss. I never expected this place to lead directly to the heart of the Bright Blade sect. On the contrary, unexpected misfortunes cannot be revealed to the outside. The future will have a significant impact. After returning, the elders will surely reward us. The anxious woman spoke up with a question, Senior disciple, Senior disciple, they said we would meet here again in 3 watches, but why haven't we met yet? Is it possible that we are facing a difficult opponent? At that moment, Zhang Yan understood the whole story. These 2 were likely still disciple radiant energy vessel, but there was another Li senior disciple who wanted to come. That would indeed be troublesome. If we wait for another disciple from Blood Soul Sect to arrive, I fear I won't be able to leave. Right now, I have no choice but to take action. Finishing his words, he immediately unleashed the spiritual energy as before, creating and compressing the spiritual power within. Raising his voice, he declared, "I have just recently mastered the Netherine heavy water, and you are just in time for me to test it out." After that, he launched a direct and lethal strike forward. The man, caught off guard by the sudden attack, was at a loss for how to respond, and could only freeze in place, raising his hands to protect his neck. But it was all in vain. The technique pierced through both the gourd and the man's chest, sending him flying and crashing against a large rock behind him, causing him excruciating pain. The woman, witnessing this, was also greatly alarmed. Even Zhang Yan himself was surprised by its destructive power. Is it really that strong? The mystic Lan Cloud secret tome records that after reaching the second level of the realm of clear qi, one can use 16 channels of pure qi to condense and refine Netherine heavy water. This cultivation method is relatively complex, requiring 16 channels of pure qi to be continuously filled in the chest. Every day at the hour of the pig, one must absorb the dark qi transmitted from the cold waters deep underground. After 108 days, one will be able to condense a single drop. At the same time, during the process of refining, no offensive techniques can be used, otherwise, it will be a wasted effort. But once it has formed into a drop, it possesses the strength of 1,000 pounds that is hard to resist. If there are 10 drops of heavy water among the crowd, there are few rivals. If there are 100 drops, 1,000 troops will flee. If there are 1,000 drops, then it can make waterfalls flow upstream, and rivers will change their course. At this moment, Zhang Yan was hiding behind a large rock, looking out. He gently extended his hand and performed a cultivation method. A stream of emerald light suddenly shot out. Then, he thought to himself, earlier, I was in such a hurry to break through to the next realm that I didn't pay any attention to this Netherine heavy water at all. I never expected its power to be so formidable. If I had refined 2 or 3 drops earlier, perhaps a single strike could have taken both of them down at once. As for Yang Ying, she was passing by when suddenly the source of power unleashed by Zhang Yan came rushing towards her. Immediately, she sensed it and quickly performed a graceful roll to evade the incoming force. After landing, her complexion changed along with her sharp gaze. She angrily shouted, "Who ambushed me?" And then she immediately unleashed her secret technique. Resolutely, she raised her hand towards her abdomen, and instantly, a source of bright red energy continuously gathered towards her hand, forming a small orb. Then, she shouted loudly right away. The sources of power coalesced into a powerful human fish. At that moment, the human fish let out a piercing sound. Seeing this, he immediately performed a secret technique. He raised his hand slightly to chant a spell, and a stream of emerald power was created and launched towards his opponent. Instantly, he propelled the force with formidable speed. Yang Ying, seeing this, lifted her leg and kicked straight at the stream of power rushing towards her with great force. After the streams of power were struck by her kick, they rebounded and rushed back towards Zhang Yan. At the same time, at that very moment, she immediately ordered Lingyu to charge straight towards Zhang Yan. Seeing this, Zhang Yan quickly leapt back, thinking to himself, this blood soul is both real and illusionary, it is not something that those mindless spirits can compare to. It seems to be a unique technique of the Blood Soul Sect. His current sword strike had yet to incorporate mysterious radiance, and against such a substance that had form but lacked essence, he still couldn't break it with just one move. On Yang Ying's side, the streams of power continuously returned to attack her. Seeing this, Yang Ying kept delivering precise kicks and shouted loudly, "Senior disciple, watch me send this guy to his doom, avenging you." As for Zhang Yan, he immediately launched a large brush, charging straight ahead, and said a go. The pen was launched, flying straight towards the figure of Lingyu. As the pen passed by, he screamed in agony before gradually dissipating into thin air. As Lingyu vanished, Yang Ying was hit by a backlash, clutching her stomach in pain. Instantly, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Despite her condition, Yang Ying did not hesitate. she immediately got back on her feet and looked at Zhang Yan with a sharp gaze. Then, she invoked a secret technique, and a stream of fiery red energy was generated in her hand. Zhang Yan continuously unleashed streams of power rushing towards her. Seeing this, Yang Ying quickly dodged the streams of power heading her way. When those streams collided, the rocks erupted in a violent explosion. In a moment of peril, she swiftly took cover behind a large boulder. Nevertheless, the streams of power continued to assault her relentlessly. Turning back towards him, Zhang Yan wasted no time and conjured a sharp blade in his hand, charging straight at Yang Ying, thinking to himself. Although this woman was injured, her expression remained calm, and she continued to move around in this place. Perhaps she intended to buy time to wait for the least senior disciple she mentioned to arrive. Could she really think that this would prevent me from doing anything to her? And immediately, he struck Yang Ying's head with a powerful palm strike. After striking Yang Ying's head, he stood majestically, smiled slightly, and thought to himself, no wonder many cultivators prefer the path of strength, having a divine weapon in hand. If there were still supreme arcane techniques to protect the deities, then there would be no need to worry about rushing into battle with sacred artifacts or flying swords. Just raising the blade and bringing it down would suffice to kill a person. It truly is an indescribable thrill. Then, he sat down and looked towards Yang Ying, who had been knocked out by the team leader and was lying on the ground, silently thinking, I had considered the possibility of capturing a certain person before, but the methods of the disciple demonic sect record are perplexing, not to mention whether the information obtained through questioning is even true. If there are still techniques to track souls or something like that, wouldn't he be turning skill into clumsiness? It would be better to just kill him outright. And then, he raised his hand to his chin, deep in thought. Just now, he heard these two talking, and it seemed that their master would be arriving in half a month. This person actually managed to send out a soul fragment thousands of miles away and could effortlessly control countless pure spirit energy cultivators. Their strength was indeed formidable. It was unclear what level of mastery they had reached. The cultivation method recorded in the Grand Golden Book can only unleash its power when one reaches the mystical radiance realm. With my current level of cultivation, there is definitely no chance of winning against a master of this caliber. It would be better to find a safe place to stay and urgently increase my own strength. If I can successfully cultivate soon, then by that time, I might be able to put up a fight. In a place where sharp rock formations jutted out in abundance, Li Weide suddenly appeared upon those rocky outcrops. Li Weide manifested with a dignified posture, gazing ahead. The individuals in the sect immediately bowed their heads respectfully to pay their respects to senior disciple Li. At that moment, they brought forth someone who looked utterly wretched. One of them stepped forward and clasped their hands in reverence, saying, "This is the disciple captured from the Bright Blade sect, specifically brought here to be handed over to senior disciple for handling." Hearing this, Li Weide immediately activated his secret technique, and a massive hand was conjured, rushing towards the disciple of the Bright Blade sect, grabbing him. Then, that hand brought him before Li Weide. Seeing this, he was so frightened that he tightly shut his eyes, not daring to open them. Li Weide, observing this, gently asked, "I ask you, how many of you will be going to the demonic abyss next time? What are their names? What skills do they possess?" At that moment, the disciple of the Bright Blade sect, gripped tightly by the arm, slightly opened his eyes, glancing at him and spat out, "Your ghastly appearance clearly shows that you have practiced the blood origin art, transforming into something that is neither human nor ghost. How could someone like you dare to interrogate Master Zhao of your house? Just go ahead and do it." Hearing this, Li Weide chuckled softly and replied, "All right, you've got some spirit, I shall accommodate you then." The moment his words ended, the arm he created tightened, causing the disciple of the Bright Blade sect to scream in pain. Then, the hand clenched Huan tightly, and what happened to the disciple of the Bright Blade sect seemed to be understood by everyone. After he tightened his grip, sending the disciple of the Bright Blade sect to the west to seek scriptures, he looked towards the fellow disciples below and spoke, "The master is refining the true demon, and while the disciple is assisting, you all should search in all directions. If you encounter any disciple of the Bright Blade sect, you must quickly return and report." The disciples below, upon hearing this, clasped their hands respectfully and replied affirmatively. After speaking, Li Weide performed the cultivation method and left. At that moment, Zhang Yan witnessed this and thought to himself, under the control of the 10 Taoist sects, the great demon sect has been cautious in its actions for hundreds of years, with many brutal and sinister cultivation methods forbidden from being practiced. The balance of power between the immortals and demons has always been maintained, and whenever the sects of the Donghua region are mentioned, it is always the 16 great sects that are referred to. At this time, he was sitting cross-legged on a large rock, with streams of jade-like energy continuously radiating, enveloping his entire body. Meanwhile, he was deep in thought, reflecting on the recent rumors circulating within the sect. The millennial demonic tribulation is approaching, and the demonic heads in the demonic abyss will only increase. The 4 other demonic abysses, whose locations are unknown to anyone, are also about to emerge one after another. Therefore, the sect leader has decided to capture Sanbai to enhance the sect's strength in order to deal with the demonic tribulation. Zhang Yan continued to ponder, if this is truly the case, then it will completely disrupt the current balance in the Donghua region, and a brutal war between the two sides of the demonic path is only a matter of time. After that, he raised both hands and gathered his energy. Streams of power continuously converged towards his hands. Demonic tribulation is also a form of tribulation, and the demonic heart represents the human heart, with the calamity of slaughter arising. For those of us cultivating the way, how could this not be an opportunity? At that time, perhaps the ones who are genuinely worried about this will only be those from the mystic sect, who have always schemed to maintain the status quo. Next, he immediately consumed a pill, thinking to himself, these are all matters yet to come. The current situation is that in order to keep the secret of their potential entry into the demonic abyss, the people of the Blood Soul sect will definitely want to find every possible way to eliminate all the disciples of the Brightblade sect in this place. It is even very likely that they will send people to guard the exit of the CI on the 15th, so by that time, there will surely be a conflict with mutual slaughter. After he swallowed the elixir, streams of deep green energy immediately enveloped a golden mystical radiance above his head. Now I have no choice but to exhaust all my abilities to elevate my cultivation. As time went on, the streams of emerald energy radiated fiercely, enveloping the mysterious radiance seed. After a while, the mysterious radiance seed absorbed his power, erupting into a powerful beam of light. Finally, this seed coalesced into a mystic radiance seed. He then gently brought the mystic radiance seed towards his neck, silently thinking, from now on, I will continuously use the secret method to condense and nurture it to grow. When even the aura of light from this seed can shine brilliantly, I will be able to enter the first level of the mystical radiance realm, where the spirit's brilliance first illuminates. At that moment, various mysterious radiance particles appeared above his head, hovering there. Seeing this, Zhang Yan thought to himself, I have the mystic radiance seed now, I can also transform the lightning sword surrounding my body and fly away. With this technique, even if I encounter a powerful cultivator and can't win, I can still escape far away and won't have to just stand by and wait for death. This is great. If things are progressing smoothly, I might as well go ahead and refine all of the cloud sand at once. The world within the gem is truly enchanting. At this moment, Zhang Yan is sitting, holding a source of energy, swirling it into a small vortex. He silently thinks, this is the mystic radiance seed of the Earth system, yet it can transform on its own without the need for cloud sand. Then, he gently raises his hand, condensing a source of energy in his palm. Suddenly, his gaze became sharp. He gently placed his hand on his chin, lost in thought. The 5 elements mutually generate each other. After the metal seed is cultivated, it stimulates the metal energy within. When the water seed is condensed, it happens several minutes faster, and then the water energy continues to nourish the wood element. The wood energy aids the fire element. Once these 4 types of energy succeed, they will once again activate everything. The remaining original essence has nowhere to go, so it transforms into the earth element. Therefore, it's clear that for this final type, there is no need to continue using cloud sand, it will naturally flow like water into a river. Zhang Yan continued to ponder deeply. No wonder everything has been speeding up after refining the mysterious seed, it turns out to be for this reason. Then, a beam of rainbow-colored light enveloped his body, gently lifting him into the air. If the 5 types have been achieved, when the day comes that I enter the mysterious radiance realm, I will be able to cultivate the 5 elements' supreme mystic radiance. At that moment, he seemed to sense something and thought to himself, could it be the disciple of the Blood Soul Sect? Then, he waved his hand, and a surge of water energy enveloped his body. Immediately, Zhang Yan was enveloped by a stream of water, moving towards a high cliff nearby. Upon reaching the cliff, he looked down at the base of the rock face and thought to himself, so it's this person after all. Below the cliff, Han Shi was surrounded by 3 armed men. Seeing this, they began to threaten him. Han Shi, today we will take your life. We are merely following orders to work, you shouldn't blame us. If you are willing to stick your neck out and wait for the execution, we can certainly fulfill that for you, allowing your primordial spirit to depart on its own. As for Han Shi, upon hearing this, he could only respond helplessly, so it was indeed my father who sent you to take action? I thought he would leave me to fend for myself here. In a desolate wilderness, where towering rocky mountains rise up, the sky is unusually dark, without a glimmer of light. The scenery seems to blend into the gloomy stillness of the surrounding space. At this moment, Han Shi is furious, his face flushed, unable to contain his emotions. He shouts loudly towards Han Quanda, his voice filled with resentment, Han Quanda, I know that since childhood, my father has never liked me, and there have been many times he has tried to harm me. Fortunately, my mother has protected me, she has sheltered me many times, helping me to keep my life. He continued to speak, his voice filled with pain and unable to contain itself, but I just don't understand why my father insists on pushing me to the brink. Can you tell me why? Han Quanda, hearing this, replied coldly, without a hint of emotion, until today, I have not hidden anything from you. Years ago, when you had not yet been born, your father invited the master strategist from our sect to predict your fate. The result of the divination was that you would bring harm to your father. Do you understand now? Upon hearing this, Han Shi felt a mix of anger and confusion that made his whole body tremble. He stammered, each word seeming to struggle to escape his throat, is it really just for this reason? Suddenly, he grabbed the collar tightly and burst out laughing. Then, his expression turned angry, with veins bulging on his forehead. He shouted loudly, Han Shi, I swear to the heavens right here. If I do not die today, I will definitely destroy the Han clan in the future. Han Shi continued to shout, make your move. Hearing this, Han Quanda, while Zhang Yan stood on the cliff, witnessed everything. Thoughts kept flashing through his mind, and his expression darkened. He told himself, well, I might as well save you this once. Then, he channeled his strength into a white robe. In a moment of life and death, Zhang Yan moved the robe, flying towards them. Seeing this, Han Quanda stared blankly at the cloak racing towards him. Gradually, the cloak drew closer. Han Quanda and his underlings turned pale with fear and shouted, this is bad, it's someone from the Blood Soul Sect, run quickly. After saying that, they abandoned Han Shi and fled with their tails between their legs. Han Shi, at that moment, stood there in confusion, watching their backs as they ran away. At that moment, Zhang Yan also jumped down from the cliff and approached him. Zhang Yan gently said, fortunately, that disciple of the Blood Soul Sect had a cloak from their faction in his bag. Are you all right? Seeing Zhang Yan appear behind him, Han Shi asked in confusion, Brother Zhang, what was that just now? Zhang Yan looked at him and gently asked, do you know me? At that moment, Han Shi knelt before him and respectfully said, thank you, senior disciple Xie, for saving my life. After that, Zhang Yan turned his back and walked away, while a voice echoed, this place looks quite visible, how about you, Han, come inside with me. I still have a few matters I would like to ask senior disciple for guidance on. Han Shi, upon hearing this, replied, I cannot accept that. If senior disciple has any questions, I will certainly let you know if I know the answers. Inside a vast cave, sharp rock formations protruded from within. At this moment, Zhang Yan and Han Shi were sitting opposite each other on a large stone. Zhang Yan then spoke up, may I ask why you, Han, entered the demonic abyss? Has he ever seen the group of Xiezong Yuan senior disciples? Zhang Yan continued to ask. Han Shi replied, of course, we encountered members of the Blood Soul Sect shortly after we entered.
The opponent had a very powerful blood avatar.
After we were pushed back, we also separated from there. Hanshi continued, that blood avatar, aside from its floating and unstable body, looked exactly like a real person.
Its true form is definitely a core formation cultivator, no doubt about it.
Then, he looked at the pill that Zhang Yan had handed him, thinking to himself, this is a chi replenishing pill. Zhang Yan, hearing what he said, gently replied, if that's the case, it seems I can also cultivate here for a while. On the 15th, when the door of the CI opens, I will carve a path of blood to leave this place. Zhang Yan continued to ponder, but if that's the case, I'm afraid it may take another 6 months or even a year before I can reach the mystical radiance realm.
By then, I might not be able to participate in the battle to eliminate Sanbai.
As for Han Shi, when he swallowed the elixir, his expression darkened. Suddenly, he clenched his fist, looked towards Zhang Yan, and shouted loudly, Senior Brother Zhang, save me. Zhang Yan had nothing to say in response, he simply listened. Han Shi continued, his voice contemplative, if you trust me, I will find a way to help you extend your time by 2 months, assisting you in your cultivation.
Zhang Yan, upon hearing this, asked in confusion, no, may I ask how senior disciple Han was able to do that?
Han Shi, upon hearing this, took out a vial of elixir and replied, this is the mystic blood pill, crafted by Ru Huang True Immortal of the Blood Soul Sect. Back then, my ancestors participated in the extermination of Ru Huang True Immortal, and this mystic blood pill was obtained from that demonic body. Han Shi continued to explain, this pill has no effect at all on mystic sect cultivators like us, but for the disciple demon sect, it is a supreme elixir. If that expert from the Blood Soul sect were to see this elixir, he would definitely swallow it immediately to refine it. Without a few months' time, it would be impossible to fully absorb its power. He continued, thus, it could help the senior disciple gain at least 2 months of time.
Zhang Yan, upon hearing this, couldn't help but be surprised and exclaimed, Senior disciple Han actually brought the mystic blood pill with him, could it be that you had other plans all along? At this moment, Han Shi's expression darkened unusually as he looked at the vial of elixir and softly said, I was injured while still in my mother's womb, my aptitude is insufficient, and my desire to continue developing on the path of cultivation in Huan Gong is already hopeless in this lifetime. Just last year, there happened to be a fortuitous opportunity. Obtaining a copy of the demonic sect's scripture, if one were to join the demonic sect, there might even be a chance to attain enlightenment. And this mystic blood pill is precisely the initiation gift. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yan thought to himself, to switch to practicing demonic arts means completely discarding all the cultivation methods I have practiced before and starting over. In just one night, 30 years of hard work would be rendered meaningless. There aren't many who can be so ruthless. Then, he looked at the boy and spoke, Han senior disciple, have you made up your mind? Hearing this, Han Shi was filled with enthusiasm and spoke loudly, Brother Zhang, you come from a common background, yet you were able to join the lower house and become a true disciple. That is truly a rare occurrence in 100 years. Although I, Han Shi, may not be as accomplished as the senior disciples, I have a fervent spirit. If I don't try, how can I be at peace with myself? At that moment, a voice suddenly rang out, who was I just talking about? The voice attracted Han Shi and Zhang Yan, causing both of them to look out towards the entrance of the cave. Outside, a figure gradually approached, accompanied by the incessant sound of speech, so it turns out to be the little thief Zhang Yan, you are up to your tricks behind the scenes. It turns out that Han Quanda and his gang have entered the cave. Xiong Huang said, Han Shi, I advise you to obediently take the test to avoid causing more trouble. Han Shi was taken aback and shouted loudly, Han Quanda, and Zhang Yan behind him calmly said, if you've already left, why come back to take the test? Hearing this, Han Quanda burst into laughter. After that, he immediately began to criticize Zhang Yan, how dare you meddle in the affairs of my Han clan? No wonder Feng Junior disciple said that you would become a tiger blocking the path of our clan in the future. It seems he was indeed not wrong, but he was only half right. If you die here today, then naturally there will be no more trouble. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yan felt curious about the name Feng Junior disciple. As for Han Quanda and his group, he burst out laughing and said, 2 junior disciples, come join me in taking them down. Once we kill these 2, we'll go back and receive our rewards. The family head will definitely reward us handsomely.
On Han Chi's side, upon seeing this, he panicked and said, Brother Zhang, be careful.
That's Wind and Thunder Crown Cloud Dominance and Purple Star River Moonweave.
Han Quan, it seems the old lady is indeed plotting against you behind your back.
Where did he get this Purple Star River Moonweave from? Han Quan, upon hearing this, laughed louder and louder, accompanied by a provocative voice that rang out, Han Chi, do you finally understand today?
I'll tell you the truth, the reason your deceased mother was able to steal the mystic blood pill and cultivation method is that the madam had this intention and secretly sent someone to report it to the old master, which ultimately led to her demise. Upon hearing this, Han Chi became furious, looking at him with a gaze full of hatred, and shouted loudly, You scoundrel! At this moment, Zhang Yan stepped forward, reaching out to grasp Han Chi's shoulder, and gently said, Brother Han, you go ahead, I will handle things here. Upon hearing this, Han Chi clasped his hands respectfully and replied, Senior disciple, I understand your intention. My profound skills are lacking and cannot be of any help, nor do I want to implicate you. Han Chi, I am also a man of my word, and regarding the matter we just discussed, I will definitely find a way to fulfill my promise. After speaking, Han Chi immediately soared into the air, leaving them to deal with Zhang Yan.
Meanwhile, the group led by Han Quan shouted, trying to escape?
He continued, Junior disciple, step up and stop him, don't let him get away. Hearing this, the man in the yellow robe brandished a knife enveloped in lightning and charged toward Han Chi, aiming to block his path. But at that moment, he was sent flying backward by Zhang Yan's cultivation method, unable to take another step forward. In a very short time, Zhang Yan quickly took down one of them. Meanwhile, Han Quan and the senior disciple beside him were momentarily stunned for about 5 seconds. After a while, he regained his composure, his expression darkening as he saw his senior brother killed by Zhang Yan in an instant. He thought to himself, Zhang Yan has condensed the mystical radiance seed, which allows his sword to change form at will. From the very beginning, he targeted me, I fear I will be cut down by that blade. He then shouted loudly to the senior brother beside him, What are you standing there for? Hurry up and throw the Yan Ju Sha. Upon hearing this, the senior brother immediately executed the Yan Ju Sha cultivation method. A huge surge of power rushed toward Zhang Yan. At that moment, Han Quan released a stream of white smoke that shot forward, continually enveloping Zhang Yan in a shroud of mist. Soon, Zhang Yan was surrounded by dense smoke. At this time, Han Quan and his senior brother hovered above Zhang Yan. Han Quan said, Zhang Yan, with your sword in hand, you could originally have transformed into light and escaped, I couldn't do anything to you. But now, with smoke covering all around, this can be called a net of heaven and earth. Let's see where you can run to. Zhang Yan, upon hearing this, slowly threw a turtle shell into the air and then softly said, You think you can stop me just with your numbers? Zhang Yan continued, I'm coming. As soon as he finished speaking, the turtle shell enveloped in a green aura suddenly grew unusually large. Then, it formed a green shield that surrounded him, deflecting the relentless attacks from Yan Ju Sha. At that moment, he firmly planted his right foot on the ground as a pivot and threw a massive weapon straight towards Han Quan's brotherhood. Zhang Yan's throw was impeccably accurate, heading straight for his face. Han Quan, upon seeing this, was taken aback and exclaimed, What? After that throw, he and Yan Ju Sha plummeted like birds from the smoke. Zhang Yan, seeing this, reached out to catch them, smiling lightly and saying, Another trophy for me. Seeing this, Han Quan's expression gradually became tense as he looked at Zhang Yan. He had chosen the 36th stratagem to flee as the best course of action, attaching the motor and running away like the wind. Noticing this, Zhang Yan used the mystic radiance seed to pursue him. Instantly, the mystic radiance seed caught up to him. Seeing this, Han Quan took the silk scarf in his hand, creating a thick cloud of smoke and continuing his escape. When the mystic radiance seed plunged into the cloud of smoke he created, it was instantly repelled back. But he knew that this alone would not be enough to stop Zhang Yan for long. As he fled, he hurriedly called back, Zhang Yan. We have no enmity between us, so why must we go through such hardships to suppress each other? Let me go, and I will remember your kindness.
Otherwise, today I will face your attacks to the end, and you won't be able to do anything to me.
At that moment, the mystic radiance seed shot towards him at the speed of light. Instantly, it pierced through Han Quan's body. He collapsed to the ground, while the silk ribbon floated in the air. Seeing this, Zhang Yan gently reached out to catch the silk ribbon and murmured, "This item is suitable for female cultivators. It would be better to take it back and gift it to a fellow cultivator." The scene shifted to a cave. A violent surge of energy descended, pressing directly upon the group standing inside the cave. At this moment, Han Qi, along with Li Weimin and Li Weide, knelt on the cold ground. Li Weide clasped his hands respectfully and said, "Master, fortunately, I have not disgraced." Wu Guxia looked towards Han Qi, a strange smile appearing on his face as he spoke. "Good, indeed a handsome figure. The Blood Soul sect has always been open to expanding its disciples. If you wish to pay your respects and take me as your master, I will not refuse you." Han Qi immediately bowed his head and replied, "Disciple pays respects to master." Wu Guxia gently raised his hand and said, "No need for such formalities, stand up. After all, I am merely here in a blood form, and the rituals are quite inconvenient. For now, you can temporarily be considered a registered disciple. After we meet my true form, we will conduct the formal initiation rites. What do you think?" Han Qi respectfully replied, "Everything is at master's discretion." At that moment, Li Weide chuckled softly and said, "Master, Han Junior disciple and I have become quite familiar since we first met. Knowing that he wishes to join our sect, I presented him with a mystic blood pill and immediately sent a message to you, not daring to delay even for a moment." Li Weimin, standing beside, hurriedly placed a hand on Han Qi's shoulder, but was met with a loud rebuke from Li Weide. "Li Weimin, master is asking, what right do you have to interrupt? Hurry and step back." Hearing this, Wu Guxia chuckled softly and turned to Li Weide, saying gently, "It's all right. Li Weimin has done well, there's no need to reprimand him too harshly." Li Weide bowed his head and replied, "Yes, master." After that, he approached Li Weide and whispered, "Today, you traveled all night to escort Han Junior disciple to me yourself. This matter is crucial and cannot be lost. Do you understand?" Li Weide replied, "If I'm not here, all esteemed guest senior disciple might not be able to fend off the ambush of the Death Warriors from the Bright Blade sect." He reassured him, "It's fine, they are scared of me and lack the guts to come forward. As long as you don't provoke them in the coming days, it's all good. You just need to bring Han Junior disciple here. When the time comes, I will send someone to assist you. Can you make it back before the new day?" He continued, "The spirit soul in my blood essence has been corroded by the blood fire and can no longer endure. The 5 divine fire weapons truly live up to their reputation as a legendary artifact. Be cautious when you encounter them again." Having said that, he transformed into a vibrant red mist. After turning into mist, he soared away. As for Li Weide, he stayed behind and softly said, "Yudi obeys master's command." After Wu Guxia left, Li Weimin approached Li Weide and asked, "How did it go, elder brother? Did I achieve a great feat this time?" Li Weide frowned and replied, "Li Weimin, while I am not here, you must ensure to stop the disciple of the Bright Blade sect. Absolutely do not let a single one escape. Otherwise, all esteemed guest's junior disciple would have truly died in vain." Li Weimin smiled gently and replied, "I understand, don't worry. Elder brother, quickly take Han Junior disciple on the road, don't let master feel anxious." Li Weide stepped forward, grasped Han Qi's shoulder, and said, "Han Junior disciple, let's go." After finishing his words, he and Han Qi transformed into a stream of red smoke and left the cave. A massive dragon-headed ship hovered in the air. Above the ship were spacious and magnificent palaces. At that moment, Zhang Yan appeared, chatting with Lu Tao and Xie Zong Yuan. Lu Tao spoke first, "Brother Zhang is truly fortunate. It's only been a few days since our last meeting, and you've already cultivated the mystical radiance seed. It seems you won't need a whole year to enter mystic radiance." Zhang Yan replied, "That day when I went to CI, I didn't see any of the senior brothers. I was pursued by 2 disciples from Blood Soul sect and had to hide in a secluded cave. I never expected that place would turn out to be quite favorable. After immersing myself in cultivation for a few days, I came out and formed the mystic radiance seed. I consider myself very lucky.
Xiazong Yuan exclaimed, lucky? Clearly, it's the opportunity of a senior disciple that's come.
Even those around you should not feel envy. Lu Tao, sitting beside him, added, in recent days, our group has been hiding everywhere, evading the pursuit of the Blood Soul Sect disciples. Although riding on the Dragon Fang airship, secure from being caught up, our minds have always been as tense as a drawn bow. In the end, we couldn't completely calm ourselves to cultivate. After finishing his words, Lu Tao looked towards Zhang Yan and thought to himself, Brother Zhang can cultivate in solitude, even condensing the mystic radiance seed. His resolute mindset far surpasses ours.
No wonder he can become a true disciple.
On Xiazong Yuan's side, he gazed at Zhang Yan and softly said, Brother Zhang, given the current situation, it seems that 15 months from now, when the CI opens, if we want to get out of the demonic abyss, there will definitely be a brutal massacre. Zhang Yan immediately replied, as long as one of us manages to escape, this battle can be considered a victory. Lu Tao gently raised his hand to his chin, pondering before saying, exactly. The reason the Blood Soul Sect disciples want to block us is merely to conceal the news that the demonic abyss is connected to the outside world. As long as one of us can get out and inform our sect, there will surely be highly skilled cultivators sent here. If the Blood Soul Sect disciples remain reluctant to retreat, their fate can be easily predicted.
Xiazong Yuan then added, that makes sense. But according to you, Brother Zhang, who among us would be suitable to go outside? Zhang Yan lightly raised 3 fingers and said solemnly, this matter is not for me to decide. If everyone wants to go out, then none of us will be able to leave.
However, if we agree to expend all our strength to send 1 to 3 people out, then there is still hope.
Xiazong Yuan asked in confusion, but this is not something we can decide.
At that moment, the door to the study was opened. Fang Zhen entered with a group of disciples from the sect, followed closely by a crowd of people. As soon as Fang Zhen entered, he said, without the 5 divine firearms of Fang's senior disciple leading the way, who dares to say they can definitely get out? When Fang Zhen stepped into the study, he immediately recognized Zhang Yan. He spoke up, Brother Zhang, you are a true disciple, so you must be the first to go out, right?
Zhang Yan smiled slightly and replied, why would Fang's senior disciple say that?
Of course, I will not leave. The disciples behind Fang Zhen looked at each other in confusion and exclaimed, what? Zhang Yan continued calmly, as a true disciple, I usually enjoy the comforts of the sect.
Now, if I were to abandon Dong Men and hastily flee, what kind of reasoning would that be in this world?
Fang Zhen looked at Zhang Yan, his eyes filled with resentment, thinking to himself, is Zhang Yan subtly mocking me for retreating during the battle at Small Wave Mountain last time?
Zhang Yan also suddenly became dazed, thinking, with the excess demonic abyss spiritual energy, this place is a cultivation paradise.
With Han Chi's support, it would take at least a month for a Dan transformation cultivator to reach this place. If a mystical radiance cultivator really does come, I can just find a hidden cave to hide. At that moment, Zhang Yan's face darkened. He thought to himself, I really can't believe that the demonic abyss is so vast, and yet the enemy can still find me. If I don't attain mysterious radiance, I absolutely won't leave this place. At that point, Hung Ming appeared. He gently placed his hand on his chest and said, regarding Lu Tao. Lu Tao gestured towards Xiazong Yuan and spoke, in fact, as I see it, our group should allow Xia's senior disciple to go out first. Fang Zhen stepped forward, his tone mocking, Lu Tao, I remember you come from Cold Codex.
Since when did you become a vanguard of the Xia clan?
Lu Tao calmly replied, let's discuss the matter at hand.
What I said has its own reasoning.
Why does Fang's senior disciple need to make sarcastic remarks?
Fang Zhen gave a faint laugh and responded, all right, then I would like to hear your reasoning.
Go ahead.
Xiazong Yuan interjected, Lu junior disciple, it seems that might not be okay?
Lu Tao seriously stated, Xia's senior disciple, you are a disciple of the Xia clan. After reporting the situation here to the sect, even if the sect cannot respond in time, you can still invite powerful clan members to come and rescue us.
Therefore, only if you go out can we feel at ease. The others cannot. Lu Tao continued, this is Zhaozhen's senior disciple's agarwood boat. Our lives rely on senior disciple now. Having said that, he presented an agarwood boat to Xie Zongyuan. Xie Zongyuan, seeing this, turned to Feng Zhen and asked, Feng senior disciple, what do you think? Feng Zhen replied, Xie senior disciple, just take it. Lu Tao seems to have a point. He continued, however, it is not appropriate for just one person, Xie senior disciple, to go out of the demonic abyss. In my opinion, we should add Feng junior disciple and one disciple of Sun elder to the group. What does everyone think? Hearing this, Feng Ming looked confused and said, Feng senior disciple, but I. Feng Zhen placed a hand on Feng Ming's shoulder, reassuring him, I have 5 divine firearms in hand, there is nothing to fear. Just rest assured. Feng Ming hesitated and said, senior disciple, how about you go first? At this moment, Zhang Yan spoke up, a Feng junior disciple has outstanding talent and limitless prospects, he cannot be easily lost here. I believe this can work. Just then, Jin Ming entered the room. Xie Zongyuan, seeing him, asked in surprise, Jin Ming, is there something you need? Jin Ming replied softly but firmly, I am very grateful for the care of all esteemed guests these past few days. However, I have come to the Sound Cave to find my husband. Since I have not found him yet, I will certainly not leave. Upon hearing this, Xie Zongyuan took the agarwood boat that Lu Tao handed over and nodded, saying, all right, then let's decide on this. In 5 days, we will proceed according to this plan. He then turned to everyone, clasped his hands respectfully, and said, I, Xie Zongyuan, will not disappoint all esteemed guests if I manage to leave the Sound Cave. Outside the corridor, a voice echoed in, tonight, I have come here to ask senior disciple for a favor. It turned out to be Xie Sangyuan visiting Zhang Yan's chamber to talk. Zhang Yan gently raised his hand, smiling as he said, senior disciple need not be polite, please go ahead. Xie Sangyuan looked towards Zhang Yan and spoke, Brother Zhang, you know that the battle in 5 days is very dangerous, and among us, we do not know how many will survive. I have a junior who lost both parents at a young age, and I have taken care of him for the most part. He then handed him a jade pendant and continued, if I die in this battle, I would like to ask senior disciple to pass this item to her. Zhang Yan questioned, are you asking me to help after your death? He said to Lu Tao, Lu senior disciple, I might be the one to remain in this demonic abyss, with no next life. Life and death are unpredictable, wouldn't it be more appropriate to entrust this to Xie senior disciple rather than to me? Lu Tao smiled and replied, I originally came from a poor background, my family has been in decline for a long time. It was only when I turned 50 that my master guided me to cultivate on the Immortal Island. He continued, this junior of mine has exceptional talent, my master once said that no one in the apricot Immortal Peach could be her teacher. Not stopping there, Lu Tao added, I've heard that senior disciple is the disciple that Zun Jiyan, the true master, values highly and is close to Ning's senior disciple. Ning Rongxian is also a direct disciple of Director Zhu, who is of the same generation as the sect leader and Grand Master, and moreover, has a wide network. Ji senior disciple could casually mention a word in front of him, perhaps a good master could be found for my junior. Zhang Yan pondered for a moment before slowly speaking, if he can safely escape from this battle, then I can pass this jade pendant to senior disciple. As for the other matters, it depends on fate. Lu Tao joyfully said, then thank you, Xie senior disciple, I am truly grateful. At the hour of the snake on the 15th of November, the exit of the demonic abyss was somewhat chaotic, and from the exit emerged a ship made of wood, intricately carved, exuding an imposing aura. Li Wei-min saw this and thought to himself, has it arrived? He then waved his hand, commanding the subordinates behind him, go see the capabilities of the cultivators from the Bright Blade sect. 2 of his subordinates immediately cast their spells, and behind each of them appeared a tall, muscular spirit with a fierce face. One of them said, we just need to buy a little time, as long as we wait for my elder brother Li Wei to return, dealing with these people will be as easy as flipping a hand, right? The 2 spirits, under their control, ferociously flew towards the ship that was about to attack. Zhang Yan coldly raised his hand and unleashed a stream of wondrous blue power.
Seeing this, Fangjin felt an itch in his heart. He also wanted to lend a hand. Thus, a stream of purple power emanated from his palm. It wasn't violently intense, but it was enough to destroy the two spirits, causing them to wail in pain. Li Wei-min, witnessing the scene, felt extremely angry and uncomfortable, clicking his tongue. One of his subordinates then spat out a mouthful of blood and died on the spot. Li Wei-min lamented, "So powerful. No wonder elder brother warned me to be careful, just a moment of carelessness and a disciple has been killed. If we confront them head-on, without elder brother here, it would indeed be difficult to stop them." Zhang Yan withdrew his power and turned to Xie Zhong Yuan, saying, "Xie senior disciple, it seems that the golden core cultivators and the mysterious radiance cultivators of the enemy are not here, we can fight with full force." Xie Zhong Yuan was skeptical and said, "How can we be sure?" Zhang Yan slowly explained his reasoning. If they were here, there would be no need to put on such a defensive posture. Xie Zhong Yuan did not respond to him. Instead, he turned and smiled, clasping his hands as he spoke to Fangjin. "It seems this mist is unusual. Senior disciple Fang, I must rely on your 5 divine firearms to guide us." Fangjin crossed his arms and replied with a frown, "I know." After saying that, Fangjin activated the 5 divine firearms, and a golden circle appeared surrounded by ethereal purple lights. Feeling it was sufficient, he unleashed his technique and declared loudly, "You all protect me." Fangjin continued, "I command the esteemed brothers behind to follow." The purple energy from his hands surged forward, blooming like fireworks, yet it was powerful and dangerous. Li Wei-min, seeing this, sneered disdainfully, showing no signs of fear. He thought to himself, "I buried a piece of gathering essence jade beneath the layer of sand and stone here, which can absorb the continuous flow of spiritual energy around, providing power for this sacred artifact." At this moment, Li Wei-min could no longer remain still and began to take action. He held the magical artifact in his hand and tossed it up, calling forth its power while thinking, "As long as the main flag is intact and the flag bearer is still standing, even if that side entrance is destroyed, it can condense again at any time." Lu Tao had a vague feeling that something was not right. He questioned, "The time for CI to activate is drawing closer, yet we cannot disperse that thick layer of clouds. Who would dare to recklessly venture inside? I wonder what kind of deadly tricks are hidden within." Zhang Yan turned to ask Fangjin, "Fang senior disciple, based on your earlier observation, how many flagpoles can you blow down in one breath if you give it your all?" Fangjin replied, "There are a total of 36 flagpoles. If I attack with full force from the front, I could probably take down at least 18 of them." He seemed quite satisfied with Fangjin's answer. Looking at the situation, he said, "Then we can blow down half of them. That will be enough." Seeing this, Xie Zhong Yuan asked, "Does senior disciple have any ideas already?" Zhang Yan directed his attention to him and said, "Xie senior disciple, earlier when Fang senior disciple cleared a small section of the mist, I caught a glimpse of someone in the center holding a large door. After this person waved the flag, the mist began to gather again. That person must be crucial to this formation. We need to think of a way to eliminate him." Fangjin smiled and said, "Zhang junior disciple, that person is deep within the clouds. If we want to get in and kill him, we must disperse the mist first. If we could disperse it, why are we still standing here?" Lu Tao asked Zhang Yan, "Has Brother Zhang come up with a plan already?" He replied, "I believe the mist can be utilized. If Fang senior disciple's divine weapon can disperse it once more, I can take advantage of the brief moment when the mist hasn't closed in again to use my sword to slip inside and strike down that person." Fangjin was startled by his decision, hesitatingly asking Yizhang, "Zhang junior disciple, have you thought this through? If you fail after entering, we won't be able to rescue you." Zhang Yan smiled, his eyes sparkling with hope as he said, "Of course I've thought it through. Right now, the opponent's mysterious radiance realm cultivator is not here. If we don't take the chance to try, once he returns, we might not even have an opportunity like this again." Fangjin sensed his boldness and laughed heartily, saying, "All right, if Zhang junior disciple has such spirit, then Fangjin will not shy away." He turned forward, angrily and proudly declaring, "Today, I will let you all see the might of my 5 divine firearms." Suddenly, the ship shook violently, a strong wind arose, and a towering whirlpool appeared. Xia Zhongyuan turned back to everyone and said, "The great door of the CI is opened, and the water is pouring down, everyone is struggling." Lu Tao said with difficulty to him, "Xia senior disciple, you and Feng junior disciple should quickly board the Agarwood ship while you can. What Zhang is about to do is definitely well planned." He continued, "Once the formation is broken, without hesitation, jump into the water column with all your strength and flow downstream to escape from the demonic abyss."
Xia Zhongyuan replied with great sorrow.
Over there, Zhang Yan told Feng, senior disciple Feng, "It's time to take action." He immediately began to act, summoning the power of the 5 divine firearms, which seemed even more intense and powerful than before. Waves of purple energy continuously swirled around the massive golden circle, creating a chaotic scene. Li Weimin had witnessed everything. He was holding a flag in his hand, feeling extremely frightened. After sensing that the flow of power had become sufficiently strong, Feng Zhen pushed both hands forward, directing the 5 divine firearms towards the thick clouds, uttering the command to open. The streams of purple light surged from the circle, dispersing a path through the clouds, heading straight for the center. There stood Li Weimin, holding the flag. He was hit by the weakening strike but still struggled to hold on, rising to wave the flag in an attempt to restore the dissipated clouds.
Zhang Yan squinted his eyes, fully focused, thinking to himself, "This is the moment."
The Agarwood ship emitted 2 powerful beams of green light from above, aimed at the layers of clouds, but at the same time, a streak of red light suddenly appeared, shooting off at an incredible speed.
Lu Tao exclaimed in panic, "Not good, it's the mysterious radiance cultivator returning."
Li Weimin, at that moment, looked at the bright red streak and felt relieved, cheerfully saying, "Big brother is back."
His subordinates echoed, "Li senior disciple is back." At that moment, the blue light continued to act.
Li Weimin was surprised and didn't have time to grasp what was happening before he was attacked by the force.
To the astonishment of his subordinates, Madame Chen suddenly realized something important and exclaimed, "Look, the fog has cleared." Lu Tao turned to Xia Zhongyuan and said, "Xia senior disciple, hurry up, brother Zhang has succeeded."
Then a golden glow merged with the swirling column of water. Feng Zhen frowned as he watched the ship in the distance racing towards the vortex.
Could it be that the disciple of Blood Soul Sect has no contingency plan?
Xia Zhongyuan was unaware that this was an act of self-destruction. He was reluctant to go down with him. The ship had begun to collide with the outer edge of the vortex, but fortunately, it was not pulled into the storm. The whirlwind continued unabated, and the boat was unaware of when it had managed to break free.
Feng Zhen was taken aback and exclaimed, "And yet, we have successfully escaped." He clung to the railing, looking at the people below, then turned to gaze at the boat that had made it outside.
A pensive expression crossed his face as he thought, "How infuriating, it turns out I have overthought this. If I had just timed it right earlier, perhaps I could have charged out in one go.
But as for the present..." At this thought, he gritted his teeth in anger.
Feng Zhen flew to the front of the boat, and one of the crew shouted, "Follow me to break through and escape." Lu Tao, seeing this, panicked and shouted, "Feng, senior disciple Feng, according to the original plan set by the people of the Bright Blade Sect, the objective of getting the 2 Xia Feng out has been achieved. We should quickly retreat now to avoid a direct confrontation with the disciples of the Blood Soul Sect who are at the mysterious Radiance stage. We should patiently wait for the high-level cultivators from the Nether Spear sect to come to our rescue. However, staying in the demonic abyss is far too dangerous. If we take the initiative, we might still be able to escape from this place. The hope of survival is right before us."